In the last few videos, I've been speaking about soul loss and soul retrieval, and we talked about symptoms of soul loss, etc. Today, I wanted to continue to talk about this topic and spend a little bit of time talking about pattern creation after we have trauma. When we have trauma, we lose a part of ourselves. So in order to withstand the pain of a trauma, the part of us that leaves doesn't know how to find its way back. So we are left with an opening in our energy. And then what happens is whatever emotion we're going through at the time of the trauma, some of that gets stored into that place where the essence of who we are, or our soul essence was. In my observation, in my own healing process, and in the work that I've done with other people, I've seen that after a trauma, there's usually a pattern that gets created out of these emotions that are stored in the person. These emotions are kind of like a magnet, and basically they keep attracting the same situation in the person's life over and over again, thus creating a pattern. And so if we spend time paying attention to things that happen to us, and if we notice a pattern, for me this is an indication that the body, the mind, the being is trying to go back to the original trauma and release that. For example, a person who is being bullied at school, and it happens often enough, or the events that happen are significant enough for the person to have soul loss. So that would create kind of a memory in the body. So as the person gets older, they attract similar people in similar situations to what they experienced in their childhood. And then these people automatically create these situations where they have an experience of being bullied, or experiencing rejection, or experiencing social outcasting. If someone experiences abuse as a child, they will likely attract people who are abusive later on in life. And this is not because the person is doing something wrong. It's simply because there is a negative charge, a negative emotional memory in the person's energy that is simply being mirrored in their environment. People who experience sexual abuse often experience rape later in life. And this is something that I've noticed in my work. People have memories of sexual abuse, and then in their teenage years they experience rape or some other form of sexual violence. So this is the pattern repeating itself, and the energy of the person that's stored into the body, and it seems to be creating these situations where violence reoccurs. Another example would be if someone is really good at something as a child, and whenever they get to a place to be acknowledged, they're not. And so it creates kind of a traumatic feeling, a traumatic situation where the child links this memory to not being acknowledged. And later on in life, whenever they will get close to that place of success, something will happen where they're not acknowledged, and the things kind of slip away. And then another example would be a child does a performance or is going into their big moment, and something terrible happens to them, and the moment is ruined, or the performance is ruined, and thus creating a trauma around the success, around something that they love. So as an adult, that person might experience situations where they get to this place of almost success, and then all of a sudden it all slips away. That would be an example of how a trauma caused in childhood or adolescence has an impact as an adult. If we are not introspective, if we are not looking in, what we may want to try and do is to avoid the emotions that occurred as a result of a trauma in childhood. So we will try to avoid these situations, recreating the trauma, because we're stuck in that place where we don't want to feel the pain from the event in childhood, and so we self-sabotage situations so we don't get to that place. If a person realizes that this is happening to them, that there's a pattern that's been created over and over again in one's life, the first step is to start to look into the feelings that are created within the situations and really allowing them to surface. Because the function of trauma often is we will go to a place of denial. So when the stuff shows up again in our life, what we want to try and avoid is go into the denial place and really allow the feelings to come up and look at the situation with this person or in one's life and going, this is what's going on, and this is how I feel, and I'm going to feel what I feel. And as a result, the pattern starts to release. Part of that is through awareness, but also part of it is through releasing the negative emotion that's trapped in that place where the soul left. Beyond that, if a person really wants to address trauma, and really if there are serious things in terms of pattern, then I think it's probably a good idea to seek out someone for some help, so that you have a guide along the way who's been through it and can show you, and point out some things to look at. You can seek out shamanic help, where you would receive a soul retrieval, which would help heal any trauma. You could seek Reiki help, where you would be able to release the emotions and go into the emotions. And any of the energy therapies would be good for that. And also psychotherapy. That would be also a good process of awareness and connecting the dots between the pattern events that have occurred in one's life. So thank you for watching. Until next time.